believe it was K-How who said in the song, he said, never neglect the progress of a baby step. So it's also like, yo.
Special guest, my brother.
You guys like work your way up to playing on the sport.
Wow. And scrubs allowed. Sorry.
And whoever I was guarding, you still can't get past me. I was 20 at the time. So I was like, no. You're not going to tell me a 14-year-old is more efficient and can do something that I, as a 20-year-old, cannot do. Because I didn't know anything about stocks and stock market. I didn't know my head from my ass.
Every decision that we make, consciously or unconsciously, there is a cause and effect to it. Hi there. I am proud to say I'm a certified life coach. I specialize in confidence and assisting you in getting clarity in any area of your life that you would love to see improvement on. To get on a complimentary call with me, click the link in the bio, use the code COACHSAGE. I look forward to seeing you soon and enjoy this week's episode. Alrighty.
Tifani Sage.
Hello world, it's me, your host, Tifani Sage. Welcome to another episode of It's All Necessary. This is a space where we are all reminded that every life experience that we go through, whether big or small, it's only to prepare us for the next experience in our life, right? Cool. Before we get into today's episode, please remember to like, subscribe, leave your comments in the feedback section because I want to hear from you. Okay, so without further ado, I want to welcome my very special guest, my little big brother, Sebastian Eccles. Yo, hold on. I feel like because you're on, it's like, okay, listen, I gotta get away tonight. All right, so let me properly introduce my brother. So my brother is a certified wealth analyst, okay? And he's very humble when it comes to touting his accomplishments. So we'll give the humble version. My brother, let me say this, a continuing accomplishment that my brother definitely rides off of is being at the helm of clients' wealth creation through careful and long-term financial planning, okay? And I'm gonna just say, as the touting and proud sister that I am, you have done so many, Series 7. Oh, also, I want to say, guys, please ignore the booming bass that you hear in the background. There's someone in the next studio that's having a time of their life. So, hey, it's all necessary, right? But how you doing, brother?
Medea.
Right? So, I guess this is a free-for-all kind of nothing will be organic in this. But let me just say, with becoming a certified wealth analyst, just tell the people what, test exams or whatever you had to do to become that, to have extra letters behind your last name.
So there's several, but all of the designations or qualifications that I've taken up to this point, or taken and passed up to this point, in order, I'm gonna brag a bit, are Series 7.
Yo, Jano.
The Series 66, life and health insurance, certified financial planner exam,
and
then most recently the certified investment management analyst qualification.
My Lord. Bruh.
All post college.
I really feel like going off script with this now, but it's first thing is thinking, I know I was not there with you taking the test, but I was with you when you were going through all these things. I just feel how did you find the time?
If you want something bad enough, you will make the time. You will sacrifice.
You hear that?
Whatever it is you need to sacrifice, which I feel will be a recurring theme that I'll probably echo tonight. Yeah. But sacrifice, make do. Don't make excuses.
Bruh. Okay, so let's just jump into this because I'm so excited. I love this man so much. And You are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start with childhood.
Mm-hmm.
What was your fondest childhood memory, and why does it still resonate with you to this date?
So, very good question. My most fondest childhood memory, I don't even think you know this, is...
I learned something new today.
This was either 7th or 8th grade, West Pine.
West Pine was the middle school that he went to.
Yep, West Pine Middle in Sunrise, Florida. And in the morning, I don't know if they still have it now, but in the morning they would open up the outside basketball courts and allow the students to basically play before school started. So there were several courts outside. I want to say like maybe 3 or 4. But there was one specific court where the who's who was on this court. If you were
big Monting.
Exactly. If you were either on the basketball team, you got like you were automatically picked up, or if you were just like very popular, you would get picked up. But this was like you had to like work your way up to playing on this court. And
no scrubs allowed. Sorry.
One day, so I was used to playing on like the second best court up to that point. One day, I think I had a homeboy. He was, I don't know, maybe like a popular kid in school. And he just looked out. He was like, yo, Sebastian, you want to run? I was like, all right, cool. I think I was maybe the last person to get picked up. So they weren't expecting anything from me. And I just remember that was...
You can look at me,
That
you just zoning back in.
That was the day where my defensive prowess became a thing.
Oh, shoot.
Because who I was guarding at first
I
was...
didn't know. I mean, as you said, I wouldn't know, but I would have never known that. Okay, so keep going.
So I forget who was exactly who I was guarding, but they basically, like, the ball was being fed to them. I was... Can we curse?
Yeah.
I was locking their ass up. Like,
hello. You were like, yo, you me come for,
Listen, they didn't get anything in. I would get one stop after the other, and like the crowd would. First of all, the crowd would grow.
Yeah.
And then it would be
this
like,
is all before school time.
Yeah, all before school time.
So you did stink before school.
0 out of 10. Do not recommend doing this.
Wait. So really, you were smelling bad?
It was just like you're sweating before school and whatever. So it's just like,
guys.
To me, it was worth
boys,
it. Exactly.
Nasty.
Throw on some Axe spray, you good money.
Okay. But what about the guys who didn't have deodorant? Them
then I'll
stink.
If you didn't problem. So I just remember locking whoever I was guarding up, and after a while it became a thing. It was like, all right, let's see who can get past Sebastian.
Wow.
And I would either rip them. They'd either like I'd force them into a tough shot or a block their shot or whatever. And then it was just like everyone almost like, now in my head it went like this, but in actuality it probably wasn't to this extreme. But at the end, when it was just like, yo, no one could get past me, it was like everyone just like stormed the court, and they were just like basically cheering me on.
Yeah.
And I think why that resonated so much with me is because it was almost like validation.
Wow.
Or just like the confirmation of value, confirmation of self value. Because up to that point I was.
And you were what, like 12?
Yeah. So this was 7th, 8th grade. So I was maybe anywhere between like 12 to 14, somewhere in that range.
I feel like, I'm going to go there because I just feel like this is such a good, like, wow. Okay. So you said that moment meant a lot because it gave you value. I was going to say, may I ask, but I got to ask. What would you say, why do you think you didn't receive value before? Or,
well, not that it was validation, but it was confirmation of self-value.
Okay.
It was like, now everyone sees that, like, Seabass is like Seabass has worth almost.
So it wasn't really like value in your entire life, because I feel like in your household, mommy,
but it was just like on a, when you step outside,
social,
exactly. Okay. It was like at the time for me, it was like the real world was like, yo, we embrace you now because you proved yourself.
Yeah.
And whoever I was guarding, you still can't get past me.
I love it. Another question. How would you say your parents would describe you as a child?
So I would say as a humble calf.
Okay. And do you stand by that?
I stand by that.
Okay.
I would say very low maintenance, like almost like the equivalent of like a
he's lying.
almost like the equivalent of like a lazy river, like very kind of just like set it and forget it. Like I'm not gonna. Now I would say I'm.
Oh man, sorry. Next door is just having a party.
That's because I'm here. I would say.
Whatever, bro.
I would say I would say my parents would describe me as a jokester, but not a troublemaker.
Got it. Okay.
If you know me, I love to tell jokes, love to just make people laugh, and very disciplined. Like good head on your shoulders, and you don't have to worry about me.
Yeah.
I would say
like
that
you're self-contained.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly. I'm not gonna.
But inside, where you are a rebel, as Daddy would call me.
To be continued.
We're awesome. Okay. Next, what would you say that from what you can remember, what captivated your attention as a little youth?
As far as like hobbies or
yeah, or what did you find fascinating?
Numbers for sure. I vividly remember going to the grocery store with mommy, and when she would pay at the register back in the days when people would actually pay with cash. People
still pay with cash. What life are you? World are you living?
It's mainly so you swipe a card.
Oh, okay.
At the register.
Okay.
I'm saying like I distinctively remember from young calculating the change that she was owed before the cashier actually input the numbers on the screen. And most of the times I was right. So always had an inclination with numbers from young. As far as the other things, pretty normal. Sports, basketball, obviously that was love number one.
And even with that, I think you do remember when mommy would always ask, oh, how much are they down by, like the opposing team?
Exactly.
And I would just look at mommy like, I don't know. So then you would, calculate it fast, and she's like, dang, Baz, how you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
As a what you paid. I love it.
As far as other hobbies, regular stuff, video games, girls. But as far as like anything kind of out of the ordinary, I would say numbers. I always had a inclination or fascination with numbers. Didn't know exactly how I wanted my affinity with numbers to translate into my professional into my professional life, like years later. But I just knew if I had to bet, it would revolve around numbers.
Yeah. I'm just happy you're here. Also, too, who would you say back in middle school days did you look up to role models?
As far as role models, I would say 3 that kind of come to mind now, and for different reasons. One, mommy, just because single mother, raising 2 children, and we never had to go hungry, never saw men in and out of the house. It was just a very stable household.
Yeah.
More stable, in my opinion, in certain times, more stable than friends of mine who had 2 parents in the household.
Question: at that young age, do you feel you had the wherewithal to be like, wow, this one woman, because for the record, too, we came from a 2-parent household, but parents got divorced and whatever. And our father was very much still in our lives. So I'm going to say that. Next thing, phone I ring, yo, hold, or blah, 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 whatever. But do you think as young as you were, you had the wherewithal to know and be like, wow, everything seems like everything is running on track because of this one parent? Or is it because of now you look back and say, I did look up to mommy in a sense, Oh yeah, well, I definitely did look up to mommy, and it was to the point where I almost didn't know, or I didn't feel that we were lacking. Same, I can agree to that.
So
big up, mommy.
Exactly. So definitely, that's like the first kind of like, what was the question? What was the exact?
As for this particular one, if at that age did you realize like, oh wow, this one person is holding on the household, or is it now that you look back that you realize?
Oh no, sorry. What was the exact terminology for like the general question, like role model?
Yeah, role models.
Okay, yeah, that was the first role model I would say I had. Secondly, and it's not in order, but second one that comes to mind is daddy. So years later, when I was really old enough to grasp the concept of, wow, daddy really moved to immigrated to a new country, or I guess if you do immigrate, it is to somewhere new. Yeah. But he immigrated to a country at a very young age, between, I want to say 18 and 20, didn't know anybody from anybody.
Yeah.
Didn't really have any support. It wasn't to where, let's say, he could hop on the phone and like FaceTime Grandma G or whatever. Basically had to make do, and without losing a step, because the world was not gonna
stop
for
daddy just because. Yeah.
So, and then knowing that that's how kind of like our family per se kind of came to the States. It was through his decision to come here at a young age.
Let's just pause right there. I'm getting goosebumps. Wow. So one man's decision set the pace and set the tone, and there was providence there in order for children he didn't even know where it was going to come later.
Exactly.
And I just want to stress how our everyday decisions, forget every day, every hour, if we want to put it down, every 30 minutes, every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Every decision that we make, consciously or unconsciously, there is a cause and effect to it.
It's like a butterfly effect, for good, bad, or ugly. So that was later in life when I realized it. It really sat down and kind of reasoned with myself, like, daddy, hats off to you.
Salute to you, daddy.
That changed the trajectory. That changed our lives. Yeah. And we weren't even a thought at that point in time. So, and it afforded us benefits that even we might not even be aware of, just by way of being a naturally born U.S. citizen. You know, something as simple as that.
By way of England, Managa, forget the UK.
And then last kind of role model from a young age, I want to say from like maybe 5, 6, was actually Vince Carter.
I remember that. You were so obsessed. Remember you wrote a letter to him?
Yep. So, and the reason why he was my favorite player was because in summer, when Mommy would sign us up for basketball recreationally, I was on the first team that I was on was the Raptors. And I didn't know anything about like the Raptors back then. So I think one day I was just like tuning into Raptors basketball, and I saw this guy, Vince Carter, high flying dunk machine and arm in the rim.
Hello.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he's on the same team I'm on.
Oh my gosh. I never knew I said your team is named after his.
Exactly.
Wow.
So from just a young age, I had an inclination with VC, half man, half amazing, Air Canada, whatever terminology whatever nickname you want to call him. But yeah, those are the first 3 role models that come to mind from young.
I love that. I'm going to jump all the way over to working life. Working life? Yeah, working lifestyle. We all know finding work, whether you're a high school graduate, college dropout, whatever, a human being, finding work isn't the easiest. How did you find your way into finance?
So one day I remember having a conversation with my friend Alan, and we were in maybe 19, 20. I remember being in college, and we were just talking. We would always have kind of like life talks, and this specific talk we were discussing, the name Warren Buffett was brought up. So I think we were saying like, Warren Buffett, he's crazy rich off of investments, and I knew the name prior to, but later that day I was like, nah, let me actually sit down and read his bio. And one of the things that I came across, I don't know if the author of this publication just put a little sauce on it just for theatrics, but if they did, it worked on me. They mentioned that he bought his first stock at 14 years old. But prior to, he went to the library and read every book on investing that he could find. So once I read that I was like, I was 20 at the time. So I was like, no. You're not going to tell me a 14-year-old is more efficient and can do something that I, as a 20-year-old, cannot do. Because I didn't know anything about stocks and stock market. I didn't know my head from my ass.
Yeah.
As it pertains to the stock market. So I went to the library, checked out a book. It was called How to Make Money in the Stock Market by William O'Neill. I want to say it was like the 3rd edition. I'm looking at the cover right now. And I said, I don't know if this is going to make me any smarter. I don't know if this is going to turn me into Warren Buffett, but it can't hurt because I don't know anything. Read the book over the course. This was during the summer. Read the book cover to cover in maybe a span of like 2 weeks. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, I don't know everything, or I don't remember everything. And some of the certain things kind of went over my head, but I like it enough to want to check out a second book. And I just repeated that process during that summer, just book after book after book. And that was like the ignition for my love for wealth management, my love for finance, and my love for investing.
And then so from there, when you were reading these books, did you start to say, okay, well, I mean, I guess too, did you have a clear idea of what you wanted to do in finance? And how did you pivot your way from reading a book in the library to, I don't want to tell your whole story because I know your story, but it's just like, how did you know where to start?
The biggest thing was just start. I'm a big believer that direction is more important than speed. So as long as you're going the right direction, if you're not careful, you will end up going to where you intend. So you just
Whoa. Expound on that.
It basically, to me, it just means that just continue placing one foot in front of the other in the right direction. And sooner or later, you will buck up on, or you will cross the finish line, the proverbial finish line, whatever the finish line means to you, instead of trying to make haste or trying to hurry up the process or trying to basically skip steps. Again, just focus on the end goal. And I believe it was K-Dot who said it in the song. He said, never neglect the progress of a baby step.
Wow.
So it's also like, just continue putting one foot in front of the other. As minute as it might seem, as insignificant as it might seem, as you might have friends who are making strides in their respective fields that you feel you're not making. Just have blinders. Don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Just continue making progress in your respective field. And that's basically what led me to, after graduating FAU, again, knowing that I wanted to work in wealth management specifically under the broad umbrella of finance. There weren't a lot of wealth management opportunities in South Florida. There were a lot of accounting positions or openings, but that's not what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to pigeonhole myself and just stay in my comfort zone by taking an accounting position. So knowing that I had like an innate love for finance, I said, okay, I have to get out of my comfort zone. And that's what basically led me to move to Maryland, where I was fortunate enough to land a position with Morgan Stanley.
Got it.
And just for the audience, Maryland is where my dad lives. So it was great.
Full circle.
Exactly. It was great because I got to kind of get close to New York. I'm fortunate that I didn't land a position in New York, because I probably would have been staying with like 3 other random people in a studio apartment.
Yeah.
That's like the only way to make ends meet as like in an entry level position.
And shout out to people who have to take that route.
Yeah.
I had to take that route when I was living in New York.
Exactly. I was just fortunate that I basically had a way to kind of circumvent that.
Yeah.
So I got the best in my world. In my opinion, I got the best of both worlds. I got to land in a wealth management company. Now, my exact position initially wasn't a wealth management position, but I was like, I got my foot in the door. Again, direction is more important than speed. I'll make it work.
And I want to backpedal on that. So question, playing devil's advocate. If one is to take it the route and speed that what you said, like just put one foot in front of the other, eventually they're going to get to where they want to go. But why could someone not take the speed route and also get to where they want to go?
Well, you have to deal the cards you were dealt. So let's say, for example, if I had a rich uncle in the industry who was able to bring me on his team as like basically a paraplanner for those who aren't in the industry, it's basically the most kind of junior entry level position in wealth management. If I had that luxury, I would have definitely taken it, but I didn't. So I just kind of had to make do. And I just had to make sure I wasn't trying to shortchange the process. You know, I just basically wanted to just make sure I'm kind of doing everything by the book.
Yeah.
And just be a believer that it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Speaking of the journey,
Mm-hmm.
was there ever a moment, I'll even back it up from college, from college to present day, was there ever a moment you felt like quitting?
Yes, for sure.
Why?
So this was,
what was going on and why?
this was 2017. I was at Morgan Stanley.
That's also a rough year for me. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I was at Morgan Stanley, and shout out to Morgan Stanley. I'm thankful for the opportunity. But at the time, I was in their like financial advisor associate program, which I thought was more investment related.
Okay. But it was what?
I felt that it was more of a sales role.
Okay.
Wrapped under the guise of investments.
Okay.
So I was being asked to bring in very high dollar amount of assets in Maryland, where I didn't know anyone. My licenses were only valid in the state of Maryland, so it's not like I could ping any Florida contacts.
Oh.
And I felt abandoned. I felt alone. I was like, you mean to tell me I'm uprooted my entire life for this?
And this was the role that you had relocated for?
In a perfect world, yes.
Okay.
But again, it was only after I was in the position that I realized.
I didn't mean like that. But I'm saying this was the opportunity that you moved for. Okay.
Correct, exactly. So I just felt like, man, did I make a mistake? Am I gonna have to go home back home as a failure? I just felt like this is not right. It just felt
it's not right.
it just felt almost like I was dropped somewhere, and no matter where I turned, the direction of the compass was saying the same thing. So it's like I'm lost.
Wow.
Like, what do you mean if I turn left and to the right, I'm still facing, let's say, north? Like I felt like that was the one kind of moment in time where I felt like I wasn't clear on my direction.
Wow. And so, question, did you, when that thought hit you like, I don't even know what this is right now. Did you have a backup plan of, well, I could do this or?
No, really. I mean, there were
count my fucking fingers.
I mean, thankfully I had mommy living in Florida, and I could always. I mean, I was living.
Job wise.
Oh, job? No.
Oh,
I was asked out. It
wow.
was. There was no contingency.
And what was your degree in?
Finance.
Jeez, I'm piece of stuck.
Yeah.
Well, there's no such thing as stuck, but whatever. Also, too, how did you pivot out of that? Because pivoting is very pivotal.
Yeah. So my thing was just keep treading water, and look for opportunities out, dust off that application or dust off that resume and send that bad boy out ad nauseum. But in the meantime, just continue just do your best and to try to keep your head above water and not get fired. Because it was to the point where if I didn't bring in a certain amount of assets in a certain time frame, they were gonna let me go. So that was one of the requirements of the program. It's a very strict program, and it's meant to weed out those that aren't able to bring in those assets.
Right.
Not that you can't, but you're just not able to produce those assets right now. Like you're not able to bring those assets in the door. Again, which for me, when I just moved to a new area, didn't know anyone, wasn't able to leverage any contacts. I was one of the ones that was weeded out.
Yeah.
So
bye. So question. And so in that experience, did it make your vision a little sharper as to, okay, when I'm going to interview for next job, I need to ask, this is being presented as, I guess investments, something, but I just want to make sure this is not a sales thing. Like, did it help?
Yeah, you basically have to know that. Well, for me, I was like, I have to know that I know the position in and out, obviously before the first day, because no one likes being blindsided. No one likes being caught off guard, and it's just a waste of everyone's time. Yeah. So for me, it was like, all right, for the next position, make sure it's almost like what they say, the devil's in the detail, and you get what you ask for. So make sure, in other words, if you ask the right questions, you get the right answer. But if you don't ask the right question,
it's true.
You will get anything.
Yeah. Wow. And again, that opportunity, I mean, it was necessary for you to know how to pivot going forward. When did you, and I guess this kind of answers it, but maybe you have more to tell. When did you have to look yourself in the mirror and rise out of a situation you weren't happy with?
It was then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I had to, at first it was kind of threw myself a little pity party. I looked around and realized I was the only one there.
But me never know. Sorry. I just love that. Like, I just feel like I'm like your hype man. But yeah, go ahead.
And
sorry, not to be like into your business, but what's that pity party look like? Were you just not going out, not texting people a lot, or
yeah,
what?
you don't feel like yourself. And
how did you?
Yeah, I'm
you
saying
did not feel.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm saying I didn't feel like myself. I'm a very naturally jovial person.
Yeah,
very fun to be around. Or at least from what I've gathered over the years, no one feels like heavy after talking to me or whatever. So it's like, oh, Sebastian, sorry, yeah. Always laughs and smiles when I'm around, and I just when you wake up not feeling like you want to go through the day, it's not fun, especially when that's not you.
You're normal.
Yeah. So for me, it was feeling a lot. It was feeling a lot of that. It was feeling angry. It was feeling almost resentful of the position. It's like, God, why would you even give me this position when you know this is not what I want to do?
Oh, I feel like that a lot of times.
So that to kind of paint the picture, that's what I felt I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm. How do you currently balance your workload and your personal time, if you have any personal time?
So there's a few things I do that are, to me, I like to frame it as they're mental vacations. So one is going to the gym, like weightlifting. That's, to me, it's early in the morning. It's usually around 5 o'clock. So the outside world is still technically sleeping.
Yeah.
I get to do my thing, release my endorphins, and then start my day. The other thing is playing ball. Now, how I play when I'm playing ball is one thing, but just the act of going to a basketball court, crossing people up, picking pockets,
crossing people up,
that's that gets me going. And then also too playing tennis.
Yeah,
that is.
We need to get back. It's kind of cold now, but whatever.
But like that's something I actively look forward to. And then also, I do this every Friday at 4 a.m. without fail. I'll wake up and cut my hair while listening to
love it.
While listening to the new music that dropped on that Friday. Like, to me, that is as therapeutic as it gets.
I love that. So you're non-negotiable about your workouts, and when 3:59, when that clock has strike, it's like bzz, bzz, bzz.
Yep, my eyes will be open and my feet will touch the floor, and the clipper's already set out.
Ooh, about to cut some hair. Love it. Let's see. What's the latest conversation that you've had business-wise that has been resonating with you? And you don't have to go into detail whose account, whatever, but just a conversation that you had in the business sphere that it was like,
So basically, the latest conversation I had, either personally or business-wise.
Yeah, that resonated with you.
Checks and balances. You need to have checks.
Who did you have this conversation with?
It was internally at work.
Okay.
And it was just basically saying, an entity needs to have checks and balances, and there's no one in that entity or in the business or in the company, that's above being checked and balanced. Because the moment that is relinquished and the moment someone is above that, you open up yourself to things being run rampant, and it's at the will of whoever.
And for clarity, are you speaking metaphorically? Like, I'm going to check you when you do something wrong? Or are you talking about like numbers with the business?
More so metaphorically. More so metaphorically of like, all right, we know how things should run.
Okay.
And let's just say if there might be an opportunity to kind of circumvent one of those steps. Instead of, let's say, if it's a 5-step process, all right, well, let's go from step 1 to step 3 to step 4, instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's like, it might save time in the present day, but in the long run, you just open up yourself to just things that can go wrong. So it's like you have the process. Everyone is aware of what the process is. Keep the process.
Wow, that's so relatable to life too. Even like with getting in shape.
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
so you want to get in shape, but look what you're eating, or have you put in the time?
Exactly. And even when it's when it's just like someone looking back or reflecting of, oh man, I want to lose weight and I've been going to the gym. So how come I haven't been losing, or let's say gaining weight or gaining muscle or losing weight? It's like, all right, well, have an honest conversation with yourself. What does your diet look like? So you need to have checks and balances, even internally, to be able to assess what needs to be broken down or what steps need to be taken. So it's a conversation I had in business, but again, it can apply to life in and of itself.
Let's move on to tips, shall we? Ding, 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 ding. This is kind of the same thing, but what advice would you give someone trying to get into the finance world?
I love this question. First thing I would say is take initiative. There's very few things that are more regarded higher than someone young at that, taking initiative and just showing effort. The other thing is find representation. It's out there. Maybe very hard to find, but it's out there. And there's nothing, and I feel like people are naturally more willing to help someone who kind of looks like them, talks like them, walks like them. So if you can find
for
someone,
good or for worse, and I will say that,
yeah, exactly. It goes both ways. So I would definitely kind of impart that knowledge on someone wanting to get into this area of finance. Take initiative and try to find representation. And believe it or not, people in these kind of higher up positions do want to help. Most times they do want to lend themselves to the next kind of wave that will obviously come and replace them later in life. So if you can find and attach yourself to someone, or even pick their brain, definitely take initiative and be relentless in taking initiative.
Relentless. It's one thing to wish, then it's one thing to take action, and there's another thing to be relentless with the action.
Yes. Show that you will not take no for an answer. Obviously within the confines, but that will set you apart from your peer group, because that can't be replicated or persuaded by someone's knowledge, by someone's talent level, by someone's network. Do you have that drive in you? Right. Do you have the stamina to go through, let's say, 999 no's to get to that 1,000?
And it's not easy, so I definitely want to say that, but I'm just thinking, like, when you said 99 no's, that's a lot of no's.
But it will make you sure that you want to do this.
That's true.
Because nothing else will satisfy you.
That's true.
Something else, there might be other things to make ends meet in the interim, but as far as what keeps you up at night, in a perfect world, what you would be able to do, if it's going to be that, the 999 no's will suck, but they won't deter you.
Yeah. What would you say your advice would be to just a random youngin' or someone your age or even older who they need help? They know nothing about finances. What advice would you give as far as helping them get their finances in order? And what does finances in order look like?
So I take that as a loaded question, but I'm going to try to make it simple as possible. If you know nothing about finance, I highly recommend something as basic as going on the internet, even YouTube, and just typing in something as simple as like investing 101, just to get like the very basics. And then as far as if you want to get your specific or individual finances in order, I would say block out maybe 2 to 3 hours on the weekend or whenever you have free time.
So like 2 to 3 hours, I'm going to be out at a party. There's your problem right there.
Exactly. So I would say block out that amount of time. Pull up. It doesn't have to be something as intricate as an Excel file, but you basically want to get a list of your income, and you want to get a list of your expenses, and you want to see what comes in the door and what goes out, and you want to see if you're operating. The purpose of doing this is to see if you're operating at a deficit. So if your expenses are higher than your income, or
survival mode.
Exactly. Or if you are operating in excess, if you have a little bit left over, let's say on a bi-weekly or monthly or even annual basis, and that'll let you know, okay, from this kind of allotment of money that I have left over, I can either pay down debt. If I have outstanding debt, I can contribute that money to, let's say, an investment account if I have one open. But the first step is to get a sense of what does your kind of financial profile looks like.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to pivot over to that. Why did I do that? So what should, granted everyone's finances looks different, but what should someone's, I guess, foundation accounts look like? So is it have your checks, have your checking, your saving, have your 401k, have your Roth IRA, like what would you say is a great template?
As far as, so again, everyone is different. So it's a very nuanced question just in and of itself. But as far as from a bird's eye view, you want to, one, make sure if your job offers a 401k that you're contributing to it. And if you're young, let's say if you're maybe sub 40, you want to contribute in a perfect world, again, and I do not give financial advice for free, so don't take this as financial advice, but you want to contribute, let's say, somewhere in the double digits to your 401k. So let's just say of your paycheck, maybe 10% of your paycheck just goes to your 401k, because what that's going to do is going to force you, or it's going to force you to save, let's say, the 90% of your income. It's going to force you to work with that instead of the whole 100%, which may not feel fun or fair when you're young, but when you're in your 40s and 50s and you're eyeing
look on your account and say, boy,
exactly, and you're eyeing retirement, you're going to have, again, in a perfect world, a healthy 401k balance that's there to supplement your retirement.
Correct.
So that's
401k, boom.
Yeah, 401k. You also want to, if you're able to, again, if you have the luxury, you also want to create an investment account, a personal investment account, like or brokerage account, and contribute to that. Again, if you're operating in excess, and you also want to pay down any high interest loan or high interest rate debt. So a few things to be mindful of. And as far as kind of what level of capital you should keep, let's say between your checkings and your savings, traditionally they say if you're a single earner, so if it's just kind of you and when you file your taxes, if it's just you on your taxes and you're not filing for any dependents or anything, the general rule is that you want to have, call it anywhere between 6 to 18 months of expenses stashed away in your checking account.
How many? 6 to?
Yeah, 6 to 18 months. So between half a year to a year and a half.
Okay.
Call it 12 months to get a nice average number. So you basically want to have a year's worth of expenses between your checkings and your savings. Again, depending on how you are and how kind of financial savvy, that number will differ. But on a general level, that's kind of the ballpark that you want to find yourself in before you start making other choices. And this also forces one to be like, all right, every dollar that comes in, I'm cognizant of the 13 cents or the 13% of the dollar that goes here, or the 6% here. I may want to, instead of ordering out and ordering extra fries, I just may want to heat up that piece I have in the freezer instead, because it forces you to think and be cognizant about the level of your spending.
So back to the accounts, checking, have your savings, have your 401k, have you said an investment account, or you should have a Roth IRA account?
If it's possible, you
Okay.
want to have, let's say, if you're on the younger side, it generally makes more sense to have a Roth IRA, all things being equal,
Than a
than
401k?
than a traditional IRA.
Okay.
So traditional and Roth, those are the main two IRAs. If you're on the younger side, generally it makes more sense to have a Roth. If you're, let's say,
Older.
maybe 40 plus, it might make sense to have a traditional.
Got it. And to someone who wants to know what's the difference, or if someone says, well, I already have money going into my 401k, I don't want to spend that, I don't want to put more money or put any money into a Roth IRA, what would you say to that?
I would say you might not want to, but what does your 50-year-old self, what would your 50-year-old self recommend? Because at that point, they've had the fund of their 20s and 30s and 40s. So they're not so focused on what club are we going to hit tonight. They're focused on, man, things are expensive and I only have this much amount of money.
Yeah.
And if I wish, knowing what I know now, I wish that I could do things differently in my 20s. And if you're fortunate enough to be in your 20s or your 30s,
use that time.
exactly. So
As Daddy would always stress,
Exact-
time waits for no man.
and there's a saying that once I heard it, it just resonated with me. So I never forgot it. It said, youth is wasted on the young. And it basically means because when you're young, you don't know what you don't know. But when you're, let's say, older, most people are like, man, if I could go back, if I could, knowing what I know now, basically, I would do things so differently.
Yeah.
But again, that's why they say youth is wasted on the young. So if you're smart enough to know why that's a saying or why that's basically it's just a phrase, you're able to make those changes and not waste your youth on the things that most youth waste their things on.
Yeah, but then you may have that adult where it's like, man, I never got to da-da-da-da. And because I will say this, money does not guarantee happiness, but it definitely gives you options.
It's a good down payment though. And
What's a good down payment?
money. When you say you can't buy
yeah.
happiness.
Oh, yeah. But then it could be a thing where when someone has been lived a very, rigid youth, that it's when they're in their adulthood, it's like, man, I want to kind of live out, and then you have immature older people. So I guess, whatever.
I would much rather have that problem or have those thoughts at 50 years old versus I wish I invested because I don't have enough money to survive the next 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. So you would say, or I want your opinion on, would you say the Roth IRA and the 401k are just two buckets that it's like, okay, this is for later?
Yeah, those are like retirement vehicles.
Okay.
And then also the last account I don't want to forget is life insurance. So
life insurance.
Yeah, it pays to get it as young as possible. I would say maybe the age bracket or the age range that makes most sense is like right after you finish college and you get your first kind of full-time job.
Okay. And why do you think life insurance is important?
Because, depending on the policy, the premium or the amount of money you pay will differ, but generally, 5-year-old is going to be broken over the back by what they have to pay versus the 25-year-old.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to leave that one out there.
Well, thank you for your tips, young man.
Exactly.
We're going to move over on to, let's see. I'm going to dilly-dally between them both. Let's start with Essence. How would you say having a Caribbean upbringing has helped shape you and also, I guess, help you or not help you in how you present to the world in the professional realm? You can attack the question any way you want.
When we're ready for trace up why.
Oh, no. So growing up Jamaican is only beneficial when you want to cuss out somebody. That's yes, sir.
I want to tell someone about themselves.
Wow.
But I would say growing up in a Caribbean household definitely forces you to grow up faster than, let's say, your maybe American counterpart. There is certain things that, let's say, an American child might be able to get away with, generally speaking, that a Caribbean child does not. So it just forces you to mature. I feel it forces you to mature faster.
Can you give an example?
Of just maybe respect. So when you walk into a room as a youth, as a child, I vividly remember being told, when you walk into a room, you greet everyone. You don't just, or let's say if your parent is talking, you don't just butt into their conversation. Hey, mommy, can you do this? Hey, daddy. Excuse me, mommy. Excuse me, daddy. If you're on a dinner table, you say, and if, let's say if you have to get up, let's say to use the restroom or whatever, before you get up, you say, excuse me, excuse yourself, and then push in the chair, and then go about handle your business. So just these little respect things. I remember in maybe 4th grade, one of my friends, he had a sleepover, and it was a few of us over at his house. And for breakfast the next day, his mom cooked breakfast, and it was good. And I remember getting up and just pushing in my chair when I was done. To me, it was nothing. It was regular. And then afterwards, his mom told mommy, she was like, Miss Eccles, your son is so mannerable. He was the only one who pushed in his chair. He's the only one who knew how to eat with a knife and fork. Just certain things that, again, when you're growing up in the house, it's like, it's regular. So I would say that from a kind of personal side. And then professionally, I have to credit mommy and daddy to instilling in me that when it's not talking back, especially when it's someone who's older than you, it's not talking back, it's just explaining yourself.
When you're saying when you're responding.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I feel like it can feel like confrontation, especially to someone who's younger. If, let's say, in an instance that they are clearly in the right and the older person might be in the wrong, it's like, ooh, I don't want to tell them they're wrong, or you know, I don't.
I gotta tell you about yourself, you know.
Exactly, but it's like mommy always said, you're not. She would say, one, speak up for yourself. You have a voice. Don't just let people walk all over you.
Yeah, because people will.
Exactly, to me, I just credit that to being in a Jamaican household. This is like, if you can, for example, with my father, if you can reason with him and stand up on your own 10 toes and reason with that man, Bob from accounting is nothing.
Listen, Bob, Frank, Robert, all y'all, line up, okay? Because I have a word for you. I can definitely attest to, and I will say, going through it, it wasn't the prettiest, but man, standing up, that's what it felt like to me. Standing up to daddy and voicing, even if my reasoning, if in his head it's like, well, you know, he's a little child, you don't know left from right. Just the action behind it, kind of looping back into when you said 90% of, or out of 100% of your paycheck, the 10% goes towards the 401k. I could be wrong in my reasoning, but the action behind it of speak up, I'm grooming myself, and especially being a woman.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I not think standing up to a Jamaican man. Hello.
That is a feat in and of itself.
Next question. Ooh, what life lesson did you learn the hard way?
I would say being able to forgive myself.
Of what?
For example, when the first attempt that I had taking the certified financial planner exam, I didn't pass. And I was so hard on myself because up to that point now, to my credit, I was used to just passing exams, whether in or outside the classroom.
What is that? Privilege, or what do we call that?
That's a pattern. I was just used to the pattern of me passing. But this exam was an exam not from this world. So when I didn't pass it the first time, I almost felt I just had to forgive myself, not from a sense of I have to forgive myself for not passing, but it's like I had to give myself room to kind of wallow in my pity. Okay. And that's what I needed to forgive myself for.
For wallowing?
Yeah, because it's like, yo, just, brush yourself off and go at it again. But I need to just realize, no, sometimes you do need to have sorrow. You do need to experience just the pain and uncomfort that accompanies.
So you're saying let's say there's two of you. One side of you had to forgive the other side of like, I forgive you for always being hard on me. Got it. Okay,
Yeah. Because I'm very, very hard on myself.
Wow.
Like extreme. And I think that's something I need to work on. But I expect a lot. Because I expect a lot from myself, I don't give myself a lot of room.
Grace. You don't give yourself grace.
I don't give myself a lot of grace. Just like margin for error.
And I'm gonna say this. Well, I don't want to forget my question, so I have to memorize it. But, it sounds bad, but it's like if you don't give yourself grace, why would you expect someone else to give you grace? Mm-hmm. And then let's just say you mess up, as we are all human, we do, and someone is like going down your throat, and it's just like, damn, I know you. Yeah. Damn, I'm sorry. But it's just like. But that's kind of a reflection of you, how you treat yourself. Yeah. So it's kind of like treat yourself of how you would want someone to treat you.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. And then after this, I feel like you'll be like, whatever, Sharon. But what I was going to say was, where do you think that pressure on yourself comes from? Is it self-inflicted or is it the outside world or?
I would say just knowing what I want to accomplish and knowing that it's very aspirational. It's very larger than life. It's almost like larger than the four walls, that you're surrounded by. Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, to get to that point, there's a lot that has to go right. Like you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. So it's like when I feel I encounter something that's a setback, when it's self-inflicted or when it's something that I can quote unquote control, it's like, bro, you're just prolonging the process. Come on, man. Get it together. Yeah. So
but you are getting it together. I don't want you to feel like you're beating yourself up. But I'm the same way. And I'm kind of the same way, but I will say my pressure comes from God. What I call God. Mm-hmm. And I feel that it's God's allowing this. And I'm trying my honest best. Mm-hmm. F is going on right now. So wow, this episode's going to be a little long because minute done as yet.
Good.
Let's see, 1 second. Mm-hmm. When are you most yourself and when are you most not yourself?
I love this question. So I would say I'm most myself when I'm doing those things that I deem as therapeutic. So at the gym, when I'm playing ball, I am unequivocally Seabass. Yeah. When I'm cutting my hair, I am Seabass. I'm singing the words to a song. Yeah. I am Seabass. When I'm playing Call of Duty, I am Seabass, like for sure. And then times when I'm not myself, I would say when I'm in a new surrounding or when I'm in an area of just new people or people I don't know. Okay. I feel I label myself as like almost like an introverted extrovert where it's like I'm more on the reserve side and I hate small talk. So I will not
like, hey, how's weather? Oh, nice shoes you got there.
Yeah. Or let me say I hate small talk with people I don't know. Okay. So like
how can you get into bigger talks then with people you don't know?
That's my conundrum. It's like I have to force myself. Like, no, Seabass, come on. Like it's you should want to have small talk, or you should want to be able to create a conversation or have a conversation with someone that you don't know from Adams. But I feel like if someone knew me and they saw me like say in a new setting, they would be like, that's not Seabass. Yeah, Seabass is not. Yeah. He is.
This is you'd be like, I know. Let's jump into top 2. Something fun first. Top 2 books, albums, records that resonates with you or kind of changed your way of thinking on something.
So I'll start with books. Top 2 books. First one is Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth by Nick Murray. I knew it was going to be money related. That book. I read
Who's that by?
Nick Murray. Okay. Shout out to the great Nick Murray. Man, that book just reinforces all of the key points of investing. And that's a book I recommended. That's a book that I actually gave to someone when they wanted to know about finance. And so and you can't purchase it on Amazon. For whatever reason, you have to purchase it on the site, but it's like maybe $30. It's very inexpensive. So I definitely recommend for anyone who would not label himself as like a finance connoisseur, but wants to know about it, definitely recommend that book. The second book is The Alchemist.
Why did you like that book?
Because the simple phrase that to this day, I die on this hill, that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I love that quote. I love it. And it helps me just in everyday life when you're facing new challenges or kind of whatever you feel like may be thrown at you. It's because when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So those are, I would say, my top 2 books.
I was going to say, watch your hands with the cord. I kind of think it may be cutting your hair and working out, but if it's not these, please feel free to share. What are your top 2 mental health practices?
One, it's knowing that, for example, if something doesn't go your way, there's no sense in getting upset at it because it was bound to happen that way. So it's like the sooner you kind of come to grips with that, it's like, all right, next. I would say that's one. And then second is, and this kind of goes against everything I was saying about myself, but it's like, don't be too hard on yourself in life. This is your first time doing it.
And it's the first time today being whatever today is. Yeah. First time being the age that you are.
Exactly. So it's like,
a lot of pressure.
cut yourself some slack. This is your first time doing this thing called life.
Yeah. I know that you're a very big world traveler. So I wanted to ask, what are the top 2 places that you've traveled that have left a special mark in your heart?
For one, it's Morocco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as you know, we spent what was Christmas Day, or we woke up on Christmas Day in the Sahara Desert. Obviously, they obviously don't celebrate Christmas out there, but it was, for us, it was just knowing that, damn, I spent the night in the desert. I had to ride camelback to get here. Yeah. And I'll never forget that experience, looking up at night at the stars and seeing how bright the nighttime sky was. Yeah. Just from the stars. I've never experienced anything like that. It doesn't even make sense how the sky can be bright at night and it's dark, but it's still bright at the same time. So that always left a lasting impression on me. And then secondly, Trinidad has
You function, boy, function.
Trinidad has a very special place in my heart. It is the greatest show on earth. And that is not a euphemism. That is not hyperbole. That is the greatest show.
The vibes is nice, boy.
The entire country is happy. The entire country is in party mode for, call it, 2 weeks, at least.
I love it. Alrighty, well, we're going to go into the fun section. What do you take the most care of on you?
My hair.
All right. That was quick and easy. Do you prefer to eat out or cook at home?
Cook at home.
That makes like dumb. What are you most thankful for?
That I have things to be thankful for.
Wow. Like?
Family. I do not take that for granted. And that's one of maybe the chief reason why the holidays are my favorite time of year. It's because so in my industry or in finance, people make uber amounts of money that doesn't even seem fathomable. And I'm not going to speak for all of them, but some of them, they don't have the level of happiness that you would think someone at that income level would have. Wow. And I'm not saying it's because they're, let's say, lacking in the area of family or love, but just knowing that I experienced that level of joy, or I experienced this level of joy when it has to do with family, and it's always a fun time. There's laughter, there's jokes. That I give get it on my knees and thank God that I've been fortunate enough to experience that in my lifetime.
I love that. What are you OCD about? You're like, do you have a lot of time on your hands? Let me start.
So I'm gonna not blame, but I'm going to credit it to the fact that I have a father who was in the military.
Okay.
And I want to say those genes or those disciplines
Have jumped onto you.
Latched onto me. So I am very organized about just my space.
Yeah.
Anything that is my kind of property. The seasonings in my cupboard, I'll have to be facing front.
Shout out to mommy.
Everything in my home is to a T, to where I can literally walk in and tell if someone has altered it, or to the degree where, God forbid, if I were to ever go blind, I would still have full functionality in my, because I know where everything is, how it's set up, and it's just second nature to me.
I love that. We can end with, what's the best advice that you were ever given?
So 2 things. 1, chase fulfillment, not success. Success is fleeting. Success is a ghost. Success can be here today, gone tomorrow. Fulfillment comes from within. You know if you are fulfilled. Someone doesn't really know if they're successful or not. That's relative.
I like that.
Fulfillment is absolute. The other one, shout out to Mr. Moshe.
I remember Mr. Moshe.
Mr. Moshe, 8th grade English teacher. He said, you guys are going on into high school, and after that, you guys are going to college, and then in the real world, he said, one thing I never want you guys to forget is, as long as you are able to look into the mirror and be content with who is staring back, you are good. And I never forgot that. Never.
Drop. That's it. Brother, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. I love you. It's
I love you too.
Honor. And I'm so happy and thankful and grateful that I get a front row seat to see you blossom into the Simba that I know that you are, the Lion King. You're so resilient. I feel like you're like what's it like a quiet sniper or whatever the phrase is. But I salute you. I see you. I'm proud of you, and I will always be cheering you on.
Thank you. And I want to give you your flowers. I'm going to want to say big up Tifani Siege. Big up is All Necessary podcast, because you are very, very resilient.
Thank you.
You are one of the most headstrong, and I use that in a positive connotation. You are one of the most headstrong people I know from in all my 56 years of life. I would not say anyone else other than you has been able to power through, and you somehow find a way to make you co-create life with life. Wow. And when life wants to give you lemons, you turn around and make lemonade, Powerade, Gatorade, all type of aid. So I want to give you your flowers. I want to salute you. I want to honor you.
That means a lot.
Because I do not take that for granted. And there are many times where I'm like, I'm thankful for my journey, but I'm like, I don't know if I had Sharon's journey, if I would be here. And the fact that you are here doing this, thriving, the master of your fate, unbeknownst to you, there are many times I'm just in amazement.
Wow.
Of like, damn, Sharon is Sharon. Like, she is one of a kind. Exactly. And
strong.
And the thing is, you do it with a continual smile on your face.
Wow.
Like, so I don't want to give you all your flowers. I got to reserve some. But
I want to cry. So. It really means a lot. And I know like this episode is running long, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I definitely take in fully what you said. And it feels good to know, because I feel like I feel out of the two of us, I'm more expressive. And so, not that I need it, but sometimes it's nice that it's not like, oh yes, Sharon, go. Yeah. But for you to say and see that I'm doing it with a smile, that means a lot, because sometimes I don't have it in me to. So I just feel like maybe you're not seeing when I'm upset. But hey, I'm so glad that we've been placed on this earth as we have been, and that we're like, you know, was it Batian
bench on Bati?
Yeah. Gungo peas and rice.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's not easy. And so that's why I'm so happy about this podcast, because it's like, it just gives me new meaning and new purpose. And it makes me feel like, okay, everything that I've been through, whether I put myself in that situation or that's what life gave me. This podcast is definitely making me feel like, okay, my journey and my purpose, it was not only for me alone, it's for all my listeners, all my viewers.
Exactly.
And so thank you, Chief.
Namaste.
Hey.